In this example, we're going to be constructing a tree diagram without replacement. We've been told that two people are selected without replacement from a group of three: Annabelle, Brody, and Chris. Now, the idea of without replacement means we choose one of them and then we're not allowed to choose that same person again. So usually when someone says they're choosing two people, they do mean this case. They mean two different people. They don't mean just choose Chris and then choose Chris again. That would be quite an unusual way of talking. So let's try and list all the possible combinations for the selection using a tree diagram. The first person chosen could be Annabelle, Brody, or Chris, and I'll just write them as A, B, and C. Now, if Annabelle is chosen first, there are two possible outcomes from that. We could choose Brody or Chris for the second person. If Brody was chosen as the first person, there are two possible outcomes left. We could choose Annabelle or Chris for the second person. And finally, if Chris was chosen for the first person, we could choose Annabelle or Brody for the second person. Let's now use this tree diagram to find some probabilities. Firstly, the probability that the selection will contain Annabelle and Brody. Well, we could have chosen Annabelle then Brody, or we could have chosen Brody then Annabelle. Both of those combinations would count here, so that's 2 out of the 6 outcomes. So the probability is 1/3. Next, we're going to find the probability of choosing Chris. Well, we could have chosen Annabelle then Chris, or Brody then Chris, or maybe we chose Chris first, followed by Annabelle or Brody. So that means the probability is going to be 4 out of 6, because 4 of the 6 outcomes involve Chris. And that simplifies to 2/3. Now let's work out the probability of choosing Chris or Brody, or both. If you see the word or by itself in maths, you should generally assume that it means inclusive or. So we're allowed to have both Chris and Brody selected. Well, the first outcome involves Brody, the second outcome involves Chris, the third and fourth outcomes involve Brody, and the fifth and sixth outcomes involve Chris. That means all 6 out of the 6 outcomes involve choosing at least Chris or Brody, which is 1. Now, of course, just intuitively, you're guaranteed to choose Chris or Brody because the only way you could leave them both out would be if you chose Annabelle by herself. But because we're selecting without replacement, we can't have two people chosen that are both Annabelle. So that's why it's guaranteed that one of Chris or Brody, or maybe both of them, will be selected.